Please support the official release by comics. What's up, YouTube? It's me, Supermoon Mario, coming at you with another comic, and this one is Carnage 2015. Now, for those of you who don't know Carnage is Cletus Cassidy, who is a psychopathic serial killer known for his brutality and violence. He bonded with an alien symbiote that gave him his abilities similar to those of the Amazing Spider-Man. It enabled him to craft bladed weapons out of the creature's living tissue. Deadlier than ever, he became the killer known as Carnage. Now, this comic starts off in rural Minnesota, about 5 miles from Highway 71, with Carnage. He's in a place called Pearl Diner, and he's basically complaining about how he's not stupid and that people assume that he's dumb because of his accent. He says that book smarts don't really make you smart, and that a man can be smart enough without having to read books, though he did once read a book called How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He then asks the waitress to turn up the TV, where it's talking about a serial killer named Cleveland Cassidy. Carnage's name is Cletus, not Cleveland, and he makes sure to note that. Not only that, it turns out that during Carnage's first rampage ever, on his first murder spree at St. S School for Boys, a woman named Manuel Calderon actually survived, and she became a twice decorated veteran of the Afghan War, and she right now is a private security expert for the operations at Gray Ridge Mine in West Virginia. Not only did the news get his name wrong, but now they're telling him that a victim from his first murder spree ever is actually alive, which causes Carnage to flip out and kill everyone in the diner. And this starts Carnage 2015, The One That Got Away. Part 1. The comic then shifts to Gray Ridge Mine, West Virginia, where they're talking about how they got his name wrong, and they're basically saying they did it on purpose to make him even more mad, because of the fact that most serial killers include a high degree of narcissism, and they fear a loss of identity. So they basically got his name wrong and basically blasted Manuel all over the news to make her bait. And there's this woman here who is talking with Colonel Jameson, who is Joe Jameson's son from the popular Spider-Man comics, you know, the publisher who always yells at Peter. And basically it's all a trap by the military to capture Carnage, basically getting him in one place that they can use sonic cannons that were developed for battlefield use on him, because symbiotes, all of them, are very susceptible to sound. So this is an effective strategy in hindsight. Then Colonel Jameson and Manny basically want to know why each other would continue working in such a dangerous field. They both accomplished major things, her 2 wars in Afghan, and him going to space, you know, to moon and back a couple of times. So they're both wondering why each other would continue to be involved with the military. And then walks in Barry Gleason, who's the managing director of Gray Ridge Investments. He basically said that when Manny, who was Miss Calderon, when she joined them as a director of security, he did a background check on her. And after he did a background check, he realized that she was the only survivor of Carnage's first murder spree. And then he reached out to the Bureau with a proposal. Jameson then questions his allegiance to the military, saying, you know, you're only doing it for money. And then Gleason goes on a big spiel about one's civic duty doesn't prelude earning a profit, and he compares Gleason to his dad. If everything goes south, they do have a plan B though in Eddie Brock. Though the interesting thing about this page is that Eddie Brock is not actually Venom in this comic. Eddie Brock is actually Toxin, another symbiote. And they basically go on to explain that Toxin is an offspring of Carnage, just like Carnage was a symbiote offspring of Venom, which was created when Eddie Brock and Cletus both shared a prison cell. So then basically Eddie goes in to say how he is technically his own grandkid, technically his own grandpa, due to him having Toxin now, which is basically the grandchild of Venom. They then go on to say that how they had a team looking at Eddie Brock for quite a while, and that when Eddie Brock was Toxin, he was going around and taking down drug gangs, and they're basically investigating him, and then recruited him after he took down some gangs to give him a higher purpose. They then say that they equipped Eddie Brock with a special symbiote damper that the government uses to control the Venom symbiote, and it should work the same as with Toxin. As long as he follows orders, Brock is basically on permanent parole, and they choose when and where to let Brock be able to use the Toxin symbiote. And then Brock says that he hopes that the trap doesn't work so that he can get out and use the symbiote to fight Carnage. The comic then shifts to Sunset, opening of a Jurassic Park joke, and then going on. Colonel James is basically questioning why he's even here because he doesn't see a purpose of him being this operation. And a woman goes on to say is that, you know, no one's there by accident and everyone who's there has some type of purpose related to the mission. She then goes on to go on the radio, basically asks is there any activity shown in the perimeter senses? And of course there's none, but Eddie Brock says that there wouldn't be in the first place. Then Agent Cole, who's on lookout with Manny, is basically asking everybody on the team, wants to know why was she the only survivor at an old boys school. And while he's basically asking her this question, numerous people within the team on lookout are being, as you can see on the screen, are being taken out by Carnage. And basically they then try to contact West Grid access point this to make sure it's all secure, and West Grid is unresponsive. So Eddie Brock then says this is the fun part because he knows that Carnage is there. And basically Cassidy goes on to say that, not Cassidy, but Manny goes on to say that Cassidy killed her mother, which basically makes this mission very personal for her, and that's just about the reason why she decided to do this in the first place. So she basically says that everybody died except for her, and then Cole says except you, and then she says except me, and then Venom pops out and says except her, and ends up killing Cole instantly. The woman then tells everybody there to converge on a target site because Venom's there, and Venom goes and casually starts talking to Manny, saying long time no see. Venom is moving too fast for the cannons to get a proper lock onto him to be able to fire. And then Eddie Brock is basically telling her to not keep him on the bench, and she decides to keep trying with Manny, and that she needs to lead Carnage into the grid. So then Carnage says, so what you been doing with yourself, Manny? And Eddie Brock keeps trying to push the woman to let him go because to take on Venom one-on-one, and she doesn't want to. And then Colonel James basically goes on to say that the cannons can't hold a full charge indefinitely, so if they don't fire in the next 15 seconds, they'll drain the bipolar jump transistor, which to me makes it sound like they got 15 seconds left to fire it off, or they can't fire at all. And then Eddie Brock's saying to put him in, but she doesn't want to take the leash off of him. And she basically yells at Calderon, get him in the grid. So she hits him with a pipe and starts to run, and then Carnage basically says that you got away from me once when we were kids, and it ain't gonna happen twice. And so he says playtime's over, and just when he's getting an edge over her, she actually leads him to the grid successfully. So the grid goes off, and you see Carnage yelling out in pain. Colonel James, he's questioning what's happening to him, and the woman says that the vibrations from the sonic cannons are causing the Carnage symbiote to retreat from Cassidy. They're basically saying that they did it. He then tells Manny that it hurts, and she replies with, good, I hope it kills you, you son of a butt. She's interrupted by the ground shaking, and the ground breaks up, and it basically said that the sonic cannons were so powerful that they actually ended up breaking out the ground because the ground was weak from dozens of tunnels being mined under that facility over time. And that Gleason basically says that he made a mistake in picking the location for the trap. So Eddie Brock says time for plan B. So then at daybreak, the agents actually decide to walk in and just take Venom out using a crew of men. The colonel's being asked if he's scared. He's basically saying that, you bet I'm afraid. Carnage killed 9 men in less than 30 seconds. This is reckless. And they're saying that, it's a volunteer operation. And the only reason why they're going is because FBI agents are trapped down there with Carnage. And they're basically saying that, don't be worried about me, Calderon. After all, underground in the dark with a super-powered mass murderer. What's the worst that could happen? And that's where the comic ends, that little teaser, and I'll just throw it up, this image of the next issue cover. And so I actually like Carnage a lot. I actually did enjoy this one, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, Super Moon Mario Comics, and if you like this video, give it a like. And if you have any thoughts, leave a comment. Have a great day.